like try to get them to sometimes it works. Sometimes you're like, okay, just move on. I get the deal.
No, totally. All right, well, in the interest of time, and since this is being recorded, I guess we will get started. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending this event today. This event is really special because it's a collaboration of a few different organizations. While Insights Association Greater New York chapter is hosting, we were lucky enough to partner with QRCA, the Intellus Young Professionals, and the Market Research Center at Seton Hall University to provide panelists. So it'll be really awesome getting a few different perspectives from different organizations. And we're hoping that those attending today leave with a better sense of what roles, opportunities there are out there for young professionals to get involved in the industry. And hopefully you'll feel inspired to raise your hand and help out. So yeah, huge thank you to all those organizations, the panelists, and also the leadership members of those orgs that helped with coordinating this event. I also want to give a shout out to Frankie Lipinski. Frankie was originally supposed to speak on this panel. She unfortunately is dealing with the loss of a pet and wasn't able to, but it was just amazing having her reach out because I feel like it's so demonstrated the strength of the young professionals community within market research and just the benefits of networking and being involved. Because when she was in a situation where it was like, I really can't, like, how are you going to speak when you just lost your dog? And then she was able to tap Ashley in. So definitely illustrates the power of networking. So yeah, before we get into the main panel, just a few more folks that I would like to thank. And that's our Insights Association Greater New York Chapter 2021 sponsors, our leading sponsors, Remesh, Ivy Exec, and Quantilope, and our supporting sponsors, Insight Loft, SyncScript, Buzzback, Full Circle Research, Research Defender, DataSpring, and Schlesinger Group. So thank you to our sponsors for making events like this possible. And yeah, the goal of today is just to be a really casual, collaborative, fun discussion. Feel free to pop questions in the chat. Don't feel like it has to be anything crazy formal. So yeah, and then at the end, we'll have some time for a more structured Q&A. Awesome. Well, to get started, I would love to have each of the panelists introduce themselves along with the organization that they're representing. Dom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you, Claire. So like Claire said, my name is Dominic Coco. I am representing the Intellus Worldwide Intellus YP Committee. There I hold the position of a co-chair for the committee. So I've been in market research for about 5 years now, so I'm definitely qualified as a young professional. You know, I have plenty to learn. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time ever being a panelist. So yeah, I'm just really excited. Thanks for having me.
Would you mind telling everyone a little bit about Intellus, what they do, just for folks that aren't familiar?
Yeah, sure. So we are in the healthcare side of market research. So basically, Intellus kind of rolls in all corners of the industry through pharma, market research, and then what I do, which is on the panel and delivery side. So you kind of get all different perspectives all rolled into one, you know, committee there, and it's really helpful for me when dealing with the young professionals, just because we have kind of a smaller group, but you know, we all get together and share our opinions and insights, and it's been wonderful so far. I've been on the board for a year now, thanks to Claire, and yeah.
Awesome, thanks so much. Carly, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Carly Lazinski, and I today am representing the Market Research Center at Seton Hall University. I have been lucky enough to be an advisory board member for the Market Research Center since 2016. So a little bit about the Market Research Center at Seton Hall University. It's kind of an in-house market research opportunity at Seton Hall for the students to get involved in qual and quant projects. So as an advisory board member, we all volunteer to give our feedback and on courses and the classes that the students take. So it's a lot of fun and a great opportunity to be involved.
Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, I will agree. It is really fun to get involved in and just interact with the students. And even as like a young professional, it makes you feel like you really are adding something. So thanks so much for being here. And Ashley.
Yeah, so my name is Ashley. I'm here representing QRCA, so that's Qualitative Research Consultants Association. Much like Dominic, I have 5 years in market research experience, worked for just a handful of companies. Actually started working for one just in June of this year, so it was a fun little switch during COVID. So QRCA, so I am part of the Views Committee, I am part of the ICC Committee, and then I am part of the First Timers Committee, which I can get into later. Lots of opportunities through QRCA. So it's a worldwide collaborative community that provides qualitative research professionals with unparalleled leading edge education, thought leadership, and networking opportunities. So, I mean, anyone who is facilitating, designing, analyzing, supporting, whatever it may be that has to do with qualitative. You'll even find people who do quantitative, a lot of UX researchers. So it's just a place for all of us to gather together, and then they have their big conference every year, which I can discuss more later too.
I need to get better at unmuting and muting. Just don't want everyone to hear the traffic on my street. But no, thanks so much, Ashley. And then finally, I'm Claire. I'm the president-elect of the Insights Association Greater New York chapter. And the Insights Association is one of the largest market research organizations in the world, currently covering North America and Canada with local regional chapters to meet members' needs. And what's also really interesting about Insights Association as opposed to other organizations, which I feel like a lot of people don't actually realize about us, Insights Association is involved in a lot of advocacy and legislative work in Washington. So they're sort of the boots on the ground fighting for those laws that really do have an impact on being able to conduct market research. So really excited to represent the Insights Association. Awesome. So to get started, I'm going to kick it off with an easy question. So we're going to get a little qual and projectivity. So thinking back to however many years ago you thought to yourself, hey, you know what? I think I want to get involved in that organization. What was that moment like? What motivated you? What was sort of your why for raising your hand? And anyone feel free to jump in.
I'm happy to kick it off. Actually, believe it or not, I when I first started, fresh out of college, I actually had no idea about QRCA. I had no idea about Insights Association. I didn't know anything of it. And if there's one thing I really learned about just the qualitative research field is that it's a lot about networking and learning from others. So it was through a colleague of mine that I heard about QRCA. They do a young professional grant, which I can discuss more later. But let us know like, hey, there's this organization, QRCA, Young Professionals Grant. You get a chance to go to the conference, try it out, apply for it. I actually did not get it my first year. So I applied again my second year, which was my probably like fourth year into, my career. And upon attending the conference and just like all the people that I met and just kind of making myself known, I was provided with opportunities through the organization just to get involved. And then through there, you hear about like another one and another one. And you find committees, you find groups that, cater to your liking. And it was for me, it was just kind of that click like, oh, this is something I feel like I could partake in, something I feel like I could lend a hand in. So I was, it was really through just the exposure to it all that really wanted me to get involved and say like, okay, if I can do it, I'm sure anyone else can do it. And like, then I can share my experience, much like being on this panel, I can share my experience and then it'll just kind of, escalate and just be like a little snowball effect.
No, totally. I feel like once you start one thing, that the snowball effect is a really good way of putting it. Carly or Dom, how about you guys?
I can go next. I joined the advisory board of the Market Research Center at Seton Hall about a year into working full-time as a market researcher. And I just kind of was missing school a little bit, and I reached out and I said, I'm working in market research. So if you ever have a need, or if I have any openings at my job, because we have a lot of junior staff, let's connect. And he said, the lead, Adam, said, well, why don't you join the advisory board? And it's been awesome, because not only do I feel like I'm able to kind of take my knowledge and help the students and help shape future researchers, I'm also able to network, and that's helped my career as well. And I get to learn things that are kind of outside my business and my silo, because everybody has something new and different they're doing. So it's been helpful both ways.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I had a similar experience to Carly and Ashley. I had the opportunity right after undergrad to go to an Intellus conference, which was a new experience for me altogether. And from there, I was invited to attend some Intellus YP events, and I just really liked the group of people. And that was really where I was able to kind of cut my teeth and really figure out what networking was, because prior to that, as a college student, you always have that sponge mentality, trying to soak in as much as possible. So I kind of just continued that into my career, and I wanted to figure out and find out what I could about the industry. So it kind of just snowballed from there. And then after that, I was given the opportunity to actually join the committee. So that's kind of the path that I took after that.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely seeing some similar themes of just having opportunities come your way after getting involved, which is awesome. We actually had a quick question come in from AJ, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm going to throw it at the group right now. And he's asking, what are some things that us as non-YP folks can do to better support? And I'm not sure about you guys, but from my perspective, I feel like the market research industry is extremely supportive of young professionals, extremely open. Like whenever I've raised my hand or asked a question, I've definitely had more doors opened for me than slammed in my face. So from my perspective, I really don't think the industry could be doing better, but does anyone else have suggestions?
I just wanted to agree with that. Really, when we started, I wasn't really too sure what to expect. But like you said, Claire, everyone seems to be willing to help, in my experience at least. And that's what's been really helpful to me, is because I can ask anybody, some of the veterans within the industry, help me think through a research methodology or maybe like a career path question, and everybody's willing to help. So yeah, that's one of the huge benefits of just getting involved and trying to open as many doors as possible. You never know when you're ever gonna actually have to use it, but just making those connections is super important, and everybody's been super helpful so far.
Yeah, to add on to what Dominic said, it's I agree. The industry is very supportive of one another, but I think it is also when you see the opportunity for a young professional where you think that they can step up and they'd be able to handle it, whereas you can tell that maybe they're a little bit hesitant on their own, is just to encourage them to do it, right? So, like I said, the first time I applied for the Young Professionals Grant, I didn't get it, right? And my colleague at the company got it, and I was like, really? What? But then I encouraged myself to do it again, but also my boss at the time, who knew that I didn't get it, she was like, you just got to keep trying. What's the worst that can happen from trying to do something, right? And even as a young professional, we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to learn from it. And you're not going in it unsupported, right? If someone who is a veteran in the industry knows what they're doing and thinks that you can do it, it's more than likely that you can do it. And if you mess up, they're going to be there to help you.
Mm-hmm. Very good point.
I would say to add on to that, I love when there's the opportunity to just talk shop with the veterans of the industry. Just even if it's a quick question of like, what do you think about this sample or the way I'm constructing, this, just that opportunity to just talk shop and bounce your ideas off of someone else is really useful.
Mhm. Yeah, now hearing what everyone else said, I definitely want to add something on to just the way I feel like veterans in the organization, they're really open to listening to young professionals. Like I've noticed like just all the orgs trying to gather feedback and really look at what's going to be the best for this part of the community. So really great to hear. On that note, what are some things that you've learned from your YP leadership role that sort of fits into the category of outside the box of your day job? A few mentioned getting to try things and fail in a safe space, flexing, learning different skills. So it'd be great to hear more about everyone's experience there.
I can kick us off on that one. So as I mentioned, with the QRCA, I'm a feature editor for the Views magazine. I'm in the ICC, which is the Inclusive Culture Committee, and then I am on the First Timers Committee, right? So a lot of things that involve not what I do on the regular basis, right? You know, you're the typical moderating, analysis, reporting, client readout sort of things. In terms of the feature editor, like, yes, I'm writing, but I'm not the sole writer, right? I have to go out and I have to find people who want to be the author. And it's for the Travel Wise column, which you would think like, okay, so why do you have a travel column in a qualitative research magazine? But I've come to learn that much like qualies, I'll say, who always want to learn, like they'll take insights from anything, right? So, you know, sure, we'll have some columns that have to do with traveling. For example, our most recent one was traveling during COVID, but we have an upcoming article about Burning Man and just some like life lessons that people have gathered from that. And people, you know, other editors have loved it. The ICC committee, you know, it's all about D&I initiatives, how we can address them, how we can spread the importance of diversity in market research. And it was actually because I got involved in that committee that I got the new job that I was looking for, right? So the new company I'm at is all about diversity in market research. Like that's what we focus on. It was not an avenue I would have thought about taking had it not been for that committee. And then obviously like the first timers, I didn't actually attend the conference in person this year. It was all virtual because of COVID. But, you know, just based on kind of my interaction and how involved I got, they asked me to join if I wanted to help out. And again, it just plays along that whole idea of, you know, we're there to help you, right? So if it's your first time coming to the conference where maybe it's overwhelming, there's all these people that know each other, like we're going to make it a smooth transition for you. We're going to help make it memorable. Like you're not just going to sit there and listen to speaker after speaker. So all of these things are, you know, aspects that I do not do on a daily basis, but gives me the opportunity to kind of like expand my learning, and I can turn it around and apply it back to what I'm doing. But it's fun to just kind of give yourself a break, like still being involved in the qual world, or quant world or UX world, but still being able to do something different out of the norm.
Mm-hmm. No, totally makes sense. Anyone else got some skill flexes from their YP involvement?
I'll jump in. One of the opportunities we have as advisory board members at the Market Research Center at Seton Hall is to listen to and evaluate the students' capstone projects. So we have the opportunity to, what I don't do in my normal day-to-day job is take a step back and listen to a presentation and kind of evaluate because I'm giving the presentations. So that's been a really cool opportunity from getting involved.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I was challenged with is, I guess, organizational skills, to keep it simple. It's been a challenge for me to balance my day job, being a leader at the Intellus YP committee, as well as balancing my coursework for my MBA. So for me personally, it's been a challenge to kind of figure that out by myself. But also what I was able to learn is just like kind of the exposure and the people that you get to talk to within the industry, because my role for my day job is not directly client facing. So I get to now talk to clients on the market research side, as well as on the pharma side, which I would really never have the opportunity to do prior to joining. So this role has just kind of opened up a lot of doors in that way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that actually sort of sets me up for my next question. Does anyone have any tips or tricks for balancing their day job and professional activities? For me, I'm definitely one of those Google Calendar people where it's like, I have a color for Insights Association, I have a color for personal stuff, I have a color for work stuff. And that's sort of like my tried and true. What about y'all?
If it's not on my calendar, I'm going to forget it.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. Everybody's has their own system, right? You develop it over time. I don't think there's any one equation for any person, but it's not a one size fits all. But yeah, absolutely, calendar is a godsend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is necessarily a tip or trick, but it's really hard when maybe you have a deadline at work and you just need to work that late night, and then you realize you have a meeting or an obligation. But when you do find the time and you push yourself to, make time in your calendar, it is so rewarding. So my, I guess, tip and trick would be to just make that time, even when you're pressed against deadlines, because it's worth it.
Yeah, to build on that, I would say too, like, it's taking it in pieces, kind of like Carly said. Like, if you make the time for it, just that extra hour or two, you're not, if it, like, I'll take a lunch break to work on something, right? But I'm not doing that every day of the week on top of my 9 to 5, right? It's here or there, kind of spread out, whether it's my lunch break or just a little time in the evening. Once you get it done, once you get it out of the way, you're kind of free until the next time you have to block off some time. So it really is just taking it in small chunks.
Yeah, and kind of expand upon that, almost touching on what we were talking about before, communicating with people. People want to help you, it seems. So don't be afraid to ask for help, and just remember that you could always delegate things as well to make time for yourself.
Agreed. On that note, any advice, Carly, you brought up a really good point, which sparked a question because it's something I've run into where it's like, okay, I have a deadline for this, but I'm supposed to be at this event. How do you have those conversations with your boss? Like, how do you not justify the involvement? Because we all know that there's many benefits, but to your boss that may not understand what the organization's about or how it plays into your day job, how do you have that combo?
For me, I have the conversation ongoing. My manager knows that I'm involved and it's something that's important to me. So it's never like, oh, I have a deadline and like, oh, surprise, I'm involved in this big thing. So it's something that she knows I do ongoing and it's important to me. So it's important to her. So then we're able to just communicate it that way.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any other thoughts there?
I haven't run into that issue yet. I will say, like, so previously when I was with my other company, like I let them know, say, hey, if I'm being on the views committee, like I can use my work email. They're going to put my name. They're going to put the company name. So it's kind of like free advertising, right? Plus, again, it is about qualitative stuff. Like it is beneficial for the entire qualitative industry. So if you just have that conversation with it, like Carly said, you just an ongoing thing, let them know, hey, this is going on, or like, here are the deadlines. Here's how much time I think I'm going to need, right? Like views, I think they recommend like 4 to 5 hours for each edition, which is, 4 times a year. So it's really not a huge commitment, but just continuously letting them know, like, hey, this is what I've got. Here's how much time I need. Or like, if it was something like this, like, hey, I am going to be on a panel. It's an hour and a half. Like, just open and honest communication all the time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Communication is going to be a key in that trickier situation, right? But yeah, like I was saying before, I feel that the way that I'm able to kind of get around those situations is just, if something is urgent and absolutely needs my expertise, you do have to make your exceptions, right? You have your role responsibilities, but yeah, like Ashley was saying, just avoid surprises for management, right? You don't want to ever spring anything on anybody, but just keeping that open communication with everybody.
Yeah, I like the point Ashley made too about sort of like the free advertising, like even if it's just like your company name and an email signature, or you and your company are tagged on LinkedIn as participating in something, like that really does get sticky and help people remember. Awesome. So another hot topic that I've heard countless times at young professionals panels is the importance of finding a mentor. And then I feel like the question inevitably gets asked, how do you find a mentor? So I'd love to hear about how your involvement in these organizations have given you access and opportunities to find mentors.
Yeah, I could start on this one. So Intellus actually does a great thing. They have a mentor program. So that was super simple to find a great mentor. I was able to be assigned a mentor right off the bat. But also going back to what we were talking about before, how everybody is so willing to help out. You always have that network of people that you could reach out to. So mentors, if you ask for them or if you seek them out, they're easy to find. You just have to put your name out there and look and ask questions and open those doors. But yeah, if your organization has the opportunity to join a mentorship program, I definitely recommend it. I got a lot out of my conversations, and really it's a small time commitment. It might be a 30-minute conversation bi-weekly or even monthly or ad hoc. But yeah, I would definitely recommend joining if you have that opportunity.
I mean, honestly, like my one thing I would say is just join QRCA. Like not trying to throw a pitch in the air, but honestly, if you want a mentor, you need a mentor, that's the place to go. Like you could probably go on the forum and post like, hey, I'm looking for someone to be a mentor, like, and you'll get responses. But also just, it's the people that you meet. I got muted. It's the people you meet, and like I had in the ICC committee, I had someone who actually reached out to me and told me about a mentorship program offered through the Asian American Advertising Federation, which again I had never heard of. Their applications, by the time she told me, the applications were closed, so I'm hoping to do it next year. But it's just that, like, you ask for it and someone's going to know somewhere, or a program, or someone who wants to do it, who's willing to do it. Like there's not a shortage of mentorship through QRCA.
Awesome. And yeah, just to add on that, what I found with Insights Association is just by networking and going to events and seeing the same faces over and over, the number of informal mentors I've been able to accumulate, where there's been a few times when I've been in a tricky situation at work, I'm not sure how to navigate a situation. That's been great because I'm like, oh, wait, this person in IA went through this 2 years ago. I'm just going to call them or LinkedIn them and get on the phone and let's figure this out. So I think that's definitely like really underrated too, just the interactions you're having, even like the co-mentoring as well, and being able to go to other young pros that might have a different skill set than you, or have someone to just bounce things off of, like, is this normal? Like, what's your experience like? And I do think that's what's really special about all of the organizations we're a part of. Here is a question that Robin submitted. What do you think is the biggest, most important things you're considering when it comes to choosing paid professional organizations? So as a young pro, I mean, money's tight. First couple years of your career, you're paying for college. How do you justify what's worth the spend?
Why am I not surprised that Robin asked that, considering QRCA? First and foremost, I think it's what it comes down to your personal preference of what it offers you, right? You're not going to join something that you've never heard of, that you're like, you can tell a lot of people are involved in. If there's one theme that we've said over and over, it's networking. So like, how many people are in it? What benefit can you gain out of everyone? You know, QRCA has, as I mentioned before, like a forum. So you can go on there and you can post questions. They offer webinars all the time. There's special interest groups. I mean, pretty much anything you can think of, you can find it through there. And like I said before, it's not just qualitative anymore, right? We had a lot of quantitative people who joined. We have a lot of UXers within QRCA. If there is something that you're interested in learning more about, or someone that you want to connect with in this industry, they're more than likely probably involved with QRCA.
Yeah, I remember when I first joined Wire, QRCA was the first org that was recommended to me. Definitely a lot of cheerleaders in that community. Any thoughts, Carly or Dom, on what makes an org worth paying for?
Yeah, sure. So you gotta understand, like Ashley was saying, what you're going to be getting out of it. You know, do your research first and foremost. If you do have the opportunity for maybe your organization to sponsor you, I know that has been a huge help for me. Because like you were saying, Claire, sometimes money is tight when you're first beginning as a young professional. So just ask and see if anybody is able to sponsor you, because that could help. And again, you know, you want to join these organizations because you want to get something out of it. And really, once you do join it, you get out of it what you put into it. So yeah, just doing your research to start and seeing, you know, what that overlap is with all those that are a part of the committee.
Since I'm a panelist here on behalf of the Market Research Center at Seton Hall, just because you don't have to pay doesn't mean it's not good. My values and what I was interested aligned with the Market Research Center at Seton Hall, and so it's been a fantastic networking opportunity, and no professional fees, so that part's nice too.
Mm-hmm. And just to chime in from the perspective, I actually am a young pro that pays for Insights Association out of pocket. And I'm not going to lie, every time that renewal comes around, I'm like, that's like a plane ticket to Miami. But when I think about it, the opportunities that I'm getting being a part of this organization allow me to skill up beyond my day job, because I'm not the one running meetings at my day job. I don't have direct reports yet. I'm not managing teams. And to pay a little bit of money to get that excellent leadership experience and that development, like, it's totally worth it.
And I would say also to ask whether there's already, you know, memberships with your company. Who I was at with previously, like the reason I had access to Insights Association was because they had like the corporate membership. So you never know, like Dominic said, you can ask for someone to sponsor you, but you might just find out that you don't need it because they already have it.
No, that's so true. And I feel like a lot of young pros don't realize like if their company is on that list or not. And yeah, if you have that company email and they're a member, like, oh my gosh, it just opens up so much access to so much great content. So that's also an excellent point. What else are you looking for out of your professional organizations? I know we've talked about like networking skills. What other evaluation criteria did you use to decide, you know what, this is where I want to dedicate my spare time?
I don't know, Carly and I unmuted at the same time. You can go ahead.
I'll go quick. I know for me, one of the things I looked for in other advisory board members was that they had a diverse background. At the time I started my career in consumer, and I was like very curious about pharma. So I wanted to make sure I was working and volunteering with people who maybe had a background I could be interested in. And now I am in pharma for my 9 to 5. So it gave me the opportunity to meet people in that field and kind of experiment without, having to jump full into a new job.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to say the people involved with it, right? So again, luckily my first exposure to QRCA was covered because of the Young Professionals Grant, but I quickly learned, I mean, again, even virtually, like I could, everyone turned on their cameras, like we all talked, we had happy hours, we had like, post-session stuff, and you just got to learn the personalities of everyone. And it was just through meeting everyone and some of those relationships I built that I was like, I want to be a part of this. And not only that, but also the quality of the speakers that they have when they host conferences, right? Like, I feel like it can make or break. If they've got spot on, like excellent speakers, like, that they did their due diligence to find those people versus just kind of putting it out there like, hey, we're looking for someone who can talk about such and such and just grab the first person they can find. No, like a corporation that takes the time to research and do the background and pull them together and make sure that they're going to talk on something that is meaningful for everyone who's listening. I think that says a lot too.
Mhm. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and like Carly was saying, the diversity of everyone's backgrounds, that's been huge for me. Just bouncing ideas off of other young professionals has been super helpful, because what I've learned in such a short period of time is that nobody's path is really going to be linear. It's looks more like the NASDAQ. It's very up and down. You find out what people like, what they don't like, and you get to kind of like bounce failures off of each other. So that's been super important for me. And I think when I was deciding whether I wanted to continue, after the first few events, just having those conversations. It's not something that I wanted to lose. So I just was like, let's go for it. Let's keep doing this because it's super helpful.
Mm-hmm. I loved what you said about your career not being like a ladder. It's like the NASDAQ. That's one of my like favorite, I don't know, soundbitey bits of advice to other young professionals that I always say. What's some other just bits of general advice that this group has for young professionals, like similar to that, like your career words of wisdom?
It's gonna sound cliche, but put yourself out there. Again, the common theme is networking. You got to put yourself out there. You got to make yourself known. It was because I interacted at the conference. I asked questions. I posted stuff. People remembered me. They remembered my name. Again, we turned on our cameras, so they remembered, my face. But it was just because of the experience that I had, and they could tell I was making the most out of the conference. I was asked to write an article about my first time experience. I was actually referred for the editorship for the Views magazine. And then the ICC I found out about, just being a part of everything else. And so the opportunities just show up if you put yourself out there. But for those that, are a little less extroverted and who, aren't as well versed with networking, again, QRCA, if you're looking for a mentor, they'll help you find one. They'll connect you with one, and someone who can walk you through the organization and everything that it has to offer, and all the committees, all the SIGs that they have. And again, like if you attend the conference as a first timer, or if you win the Young Professionals Grant, like they host special events, they pair you up with veterans, like they want you to get the most out of it and out of everything that they offer. So whether you put yourself out there or you get a helping hand to do so, you're going to be able to network and talk to people and find a mentor and just open all those doors that, much like I've received so far.
Yeah, and I think I agree with pretty much what Ashley was saying. And to kind of stick with the theme of being a little bit cliche, but you want to kind of become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? We all have full plates, and it might seem overwhelming to take on another responsibility. But what I've learned about myself is that when you do kind of put something else on your plate, you'll be surprised with how much you can accomplish. So that's one thing that I've learned about myself is just, take on different things and you'll surprise yourself.
To piggyback off of Ashley and Dominic, I would say, don't be afraid to try something new. I am a creature of comfort and I don't like trying new things. But when you're networking, you can, maybe say to a mentor or a friend in the industry, I'm working in quant, but I'm thinking about user experience. What do you think? And you can have those conversations and don't be afraid to try something new. Because it only will broaden your horizon and your skill set.
No, all really good bits of advice. And I think it's like just so nice that, like we've said constantly, just that this industry is so kind and so welcoming to young professionals, which sort of makes it easy to get involved and feel comfortable raising your hand or doing something a little bit more outside your comfort zone. All right, we had another question come in through the chat. This one is from Adam Warner, who's actually the director of the Market Research Center at Seton Hall. Thanks so much for joining, Adam. He posed a really great question. His question is coming from the context of working with a lot of college students who are gaining market research experience through the Market Research Center at Seton Hall. And he was wondering, what has been the best thing and the worst thing about our current career paths that we could share with those who might be exploring?
I can start with the best thing. It has been awesome to see that data that have come from studies I've run have made an impact on business decisions. I think there's nothing cooler than that.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else highlights?
This is an interesting question. I want to say that with the pandemic, it's kind of a double-edged sword right now, right? So with qualitative research, everything is shifting online, which is great because then we can keep everything going. But obviously, the downside is becoming too reliant on technology, right? And it's very easy to talk through a computer to someone, but then actually having to sit live again in focus groups, it's a skill that you have to keep up and you have to learn. So I think that could be a best and worst if you want to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. Dom, how about you?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so best thing, I would say, this is a good question. So I would say the best thing about getting involved, let me see if I'm understanding this question properly. So the best thing, worst thing about current path. Yeah, I would say that the best thing that has come out of this all for me has been just the ability, like we were saying earlier, the exposure. I get to personally see, or not personally expose myself, but the exposure that I get to different corners, like exposure to other professionals, young professionals rather, the exposure to kind of the three different corners of the healthcare market research industry, as well as exposure to the veterans of the industry. So I think that's the best thing. Worst thing, I'm not too sure what the worst thing would be, but I guess the discomfort of knowing how to budget my time properly is probably been the most challenging, at least. I don't know if it's necessarily a negative.
Demanding, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's really not a worse thing, right? So like, even though it can be demanding, like Carly was saying, again, everyone's willing to lend a hand, right? If you're stuck on something, there's someone who can offer you help. So it is hard to kind of pinpoint a worse thing.
See, it's funny. When Adam threw that question in the chat, what first came to my mind was the actual worst thing that I thought of. For me, one thing that I wasn't necessarily expecting starting off in market research was just the amount of project management that's involved. Because in college, you hear about like, oh, insights, qual, quant, but a lot of a junior level market research role is really operational. And if I had known that going in, I think I would have had a little bit better of an attitude early on in my career. Because for me, it was sort of like a shock, like, oh, I thought I was going to be making PowerPoints and delivering all these fabulous insights. But it's great too, though, because like, I will say those early years, they make you realize how important things are, like quality and having like a solid watertight methodology and things like that. Like you see what goes wrong when you don't check all those boxes. Like in the end, it does make you a much better researcher. For me, the best thing is definitely the people. I love working in this industry because it's almost felt like a continuation of college where I go to networking events and I see folks that are friends. I see folks that I've worked with on projects before. And there's just this real sense of camaraderie and everyone cheering for each other. And I've definitely found that the network that I've built through IA and being involved just across the market research organization has proven to be a very valuable safety net when I've needed it. So.
Yeah, and to build on a point that you said, Claire, about kind of like where you start out, to keep in mind, it is, there are building blocks to it. You don't get to go in and start moderating right away and start building the presentations and direct facing with the clients. Like you have to build up those skills, and everyone, as usual, everyone starts somewhere. And to that point, like I've had a previous colleague who to this day, like we still chat, like we've built a relationship beyond work, right? We're great friends, we keep updated. And she's told me like she'll go into a project, she's got 20 plus years of experience under her belt. And she'll be like, yeah, I think about it and I'll go through and I'll be like, what would Ashley do? How does she tackle this? And, because I gleaned ways for her to start approaching projects that she was kind of stuck in her ways that she didn't really notice it before. And because I was new and because I was starting fresh and starting from the bottom, I got to expose her to things that she hadn't done in a while. So it was just like a friendly reminder to her that those little things that you learn early on are really crucial moving forward.
No, absolutely. So switching gears a little bit, thinking about particularly those folks that may be more introverted, a little bit more apprehensive to putting themselves out there and getting involved. How would you recommend someone get started, and what sort of pep talk would you give to them? Like, I guess, I don't know, imagine you have like your work best friend and you're like trying to sell them on getting involved. What does that combo look like?
I'd say it starts, it doesn't necessarily have to be an in-person conversation. It doesn't have to be a phone call. It can be as simple as, reaching out on LinkedIn. Like Ashley was saying, if there's a forum available, sending a written note, all these things can be super helpful just to kind of like break in that way. And then once you become a little bit more comfortable with somebody, then you could start to have those conversations if you are more of an introvert. But it's just all about getting started, and kind of you do in a way have to gain up the courage to start.
And like I mentioned before, and I'm going to throw a little plug in there. So QRCA has the Young Professionals grant, right? So with that grant, like it covers the registration fees and it covers a 1-year membership. So it's a great initial foot in. Their one for this year closes in 9 days, which is right around the corner, but they offer it every year. Like I said, I didn't get it the first time. I got it the second year. I didn't even know what it was, but it was because of the colleague that just kind of slid it into my email and said, hey, you should try for this. I think that you could get this. It was just that little foot in the door that I needed, that little piece of motivation. And that's what's led to all these amazing opportunities that I've had through QRCA. So really, I think it's also on our side as let's call it the more experience of the young professionals to help others too. Like if there's opportunities like a grant or like, you know, a conference or anything of the sort that we think like, hey, you'd be great for, or a position on a committee that you know that they're not going to just step up and take it, just to send them that text, send them that email, that LinkedIn messages that said, hey, I saw this, I thought of you, I think you'd be great for it, you should go for it. And I think that really makes a huge difference.
I would say for me, I would tell a shy colleague that they can start small. Maybe that is just attending one meeting or one event. It doesn't mean that you're volunteering to speak in front of a class of students. So just start small, see if you're comfortable, see if you like it, see if you need to shift, and then you can get more involved from there.
That actually made me think of another bit of advice. Like you said, like try it out and then get involved from there. Actually tease up my next question well, which is what advice would you give to yourself as a young professional 5 years ago? And mine definitely would be do less, but better. When I first started out, I felt like I had to be in this org and on this board and that board. And it got to the point where I was really overwhelmed and just almost going through the motions. And it went from being something that I enjoyed to items on my to-do list. And once I really scaled back and just started focusing on, okay, like this is the aspect of professional involvement that fills my cup, makes me the happiest, and is where I want to concentrate, I definitely felt just happier as a leader, and also like I was getting more out of it and enjoying my time being involved versus burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think I would probably give myself the same advice too, right? Like I always try to, everything I can do, if I can be a part of it, if I can take it on, like I'll do it. You know, it, as much as we say like network, put yourself out there, you know, there is a limit. You have to know your limit.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, also if you get offered an opportunity that you don't think you're going to like or is suited for you, you know, despite someone else saying like, oh, I think this would be great, like don't take it. You know, you don't have to force yourself to do something or be a part of something that you don't think that you're going to enjoy or you're passionate about, because like most people say, like if it's something that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. And then you can actually, you know, give everything that you've got into that, versus kind of just spreading it out over a bunch of little things that you don't particularly have an interest in, just so you can put on your resume, I'm a part of this and that and this and the other. It's not worth it. Like to be able to kind of put like one or two things, and here's like the big changes, the big impacts that you've had, that says a lot more than being involved in 15 different things.
Yeah, definitely. And just to piggyback off that, if you do have the time for it, my philosophy has been to kind of jump in both feet, you know, go for it. But like Ashley was saying, you know, if you don't have enough time, if you feel that you're a little bit more overwhelmed, it's okay to start small, you know, dip the toe, and then see if that organization is actually going to be right for you. If that's what fills your cup, like you were saying, then go for it and, you know, make that adjustment and budget your time appropriately. But I do suggest if you have the time to do something and get involved, then go for it. But if not, you know, it's okay to test things out.
And I will say it has been beneficial being able to practice saying no in a space that's totally voluntary. And I've noticed that like now at work, instead of being like, okay, yeah, I can do this in a week, like, oh yeah, that's fine, add another project to my list, I'm actually starting to think about my time and what's feasible. And now I know how to have those conversations. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. What is the coolest or most outside the box or just your favorite moment of being involved as a young pro?
I would love to go first.
Yeah.
This isn't directly associated with the Market Research Center, but one of the students knew my name from being a judge at their capstone project and found me on LinkedIn and said, oh, your career looks just like what I want to do. Could you look over my resume? And I did. And I said, Can I submit this? And I actually got her hired. So that's been one of the coolest things for me.
I think for me, so far, it's been that opportunity to write the article about my experience at QRCA as a first timer, especially because, as I mentioned, it was their first time going completely virtual. And they ended up finding a lot of benefit out of it. So they're actually doing part of it's going to be virtual and part of it's going to be in person. But just like the fact that they wanted to reach out to me and like, hey, can you write about it? Because now I can share that with anyone else that's interested in joining or wants to be a part of QRCA or go to the conference. Like they can read that and get a sense of like what I got out of it. Which I've posted, I think I posted out on my LinkedIn to share, and in people that there have been people that reached out to me and said, like, I loved reading your article. I felt the same way about the conference. It makes me really excited to do it again. So just kind of being able to like capture all of that in one little bubble and being able to share that out with others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, not to pander to this audience, but I think being a part of this panel is one of the coolest things that's come out of being in a leadership position. It's opportunities like this that I've been looking for. I one day want to speak at conferences and share my insights. And I think, I shared a little bit earlier that this is the first time that I've ever been invited to speak on a panel. So that's very exciting for me. And these opportunities are going to keep coming. I'm just, super excited to see, the work that I've been putting in kind of starting to pay off.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that either. I haven't done a panel either. And granted, mine was, unfortunately because of Frankie's situation, but I mean, that just goes to show, how tight knit the community is, right? Like, so she couldn't do it, even though she really wanted to do it, and she was able to find someone right away. And I was more than happy to do it because it's a new opportunity for me. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous going in. But it's that being comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Like taking on something that someone else thinks like, hey, I think you'd be great for, makes you a little nervous, sure, but like, who knows what's gonna come out of it for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get a little nervous in front of this tough crowd, right?
I actually get really nervous with these events. Like, no,
I don't know how many people we're gonna be on. So.
Yeah, for some reason, virtual, it's just so much like more difficult than in person for me. I don't know. Yeah, my coolest thing, it's very, very trivial and shallow, but through being a part of the Insights Association, one time I attended an event and I got probably the coolest name tag I will ever get. Like, bear with me, I know it sounds nerdy, but part of my role with Insights Association is helping our chapter out. We do an annual scholarship to various organizations, colleges that have market research disciplines, and our scholarship used to sit at NYU Stern, and I felt so fancy. We went to like a scholarship reception there and I got a name tag that said benefactor, and I was just like, I'm 27 years old and I'm a benefactor. Okay, I love that. And just little things like that, it makes you feel good about yourself. It's like, oh yeah, like even though I am just 5 years into my career, like I am someone, I'm important. Mm-hmm.
Never underestimate your own abilities.
Right? No, exactly. And that's why it's so great that this community is just so encouraging, because I feel like, it's just a big group of everyone cheering each other on. Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're at 7. I had allocated a half hour for Q&A, but we have had some drop off. So does anyone that's still on have questions? If not, we can go through to just closing remarks, final thoughts.
Everybody, no, I just wanted to say what a great, thank everybody for being a part of this. As somebody whose career started as kind of a volunteer at this chapter many years ago, and then just kind of about mentorship, kind of just today's kind of a cool day because Ginger, who's one of our advisors on the board, she's always been a mentor to me with this chapter. And then today she joined my company at Paradigm. And so it came really full circle. Someone who'd always looked out for me. We're able to kind of team up. She's, you kind of working side by side with folks across these great organizations. You kind of really learn about who you are and your work ethic. I've gotten really close with Claire, and she's done some amazing things, and I've learned a lot from her. And I hope that the same. So it's really great that and I still am uncomfortable talking at these sometimes, because they always tell you to make eye contact, and then if I'm making eye contact with you, I'm not looking at the camera, which is pretending to be eye contact. And yeah, so it's Janet actually, who's here. Hi, Janet. Gave me some advice before. So yeah, it's you learn all these skills of in person, and then you go virtual, and you're trying to perceive of being direct when you're really staring it off into your camera. So, but yeah,
I will
thank
say
you,
though,
everyone.
being involved definitely helps with event anxiety. Like I'm
Mhm.
someone who has really bad social anxiety. So it's like, I want to know everything that's going on when I show up to an event. I want to be super prepared. And it's like, when you're part of the committee that's hosting, that sort of takes that away. So it's like, oh wait, this is my event. I'm a part of it. Like,
Yeah, if you get a little anxious, you can always just say, well, I have to go check on something, and you kind
yeah,
of like regroup, and you're not like, okay, what's up, everybody? Yeah, so it's good.
yeah. If you feel like it's like, okay, I have at least
A
an agenda.
little secret, yeah, little secret there, yeah.
Mhm.
I do have one more piece of advice that I forgot to share, which was just because you're new to the industry does not mean you don't have any knowledge to share, right? So I feel like as young professionals, we're wanting to learn from everyone else, right? Like you're working with 10 people with decades of experience, and so you might feel like you kind of have to be in their shadow and learn from them. But a thing to keep in mind is if you're fresh out of college, you've learned the latest and greatest thing, right? Or if you've been a couple of years into the industry, like you see how the organization's functioning, you're seeing how things are running, and you are a fresh, clean slate who can help, make some tweaks and changes to let's say, like, kind of innovate the processes that are going on, improve them in any way that you can. No offense to those who've been in the industry for a while, right? But like some of them really get stuck in their ways, like I mentioned earlier. So it is an opportunity for you to step up and revamp what's been done over and over. You bring that fresh slate, that clean knowledge that, as much as, we're seen as someone that can kind of be molded into what they want, we have that opportunity of the kind of lack of the standard for that organization, right? To be able to make changes and improvements. And, if they don't like it, at least you tried. It doesn't matter how many times you say no or someone says no to you, like at least you tried, at least you put your ideas out there. Like one of them is bound to take, even if it's not taken initially, someone is going to pick up on it and be like, you know what? They might be right. They might be onto something. We've been doing it like this over and over. Maybe we do need to change it. Maybe we do need to revisit it. So your lack of industry knowledge in your eyes is really not a negative thing.
Yeah. And I think a good point of that is with our chapter. I mean, Claire's a great example of that. She's very humble. But when Claire joined years ago, there's a few of us that were social media active, but that was kind of a new way of thinking for marketing. And Claire came in and really revitalized our chapter. And now, she's led, trainings and workshops for all chapter leaders across all of the Insights Association. And so she just, and it's also a good opportunity to try things that maybe in our day-to-day that we don't normally do. And so it allows you to, in a safe environment. But yeah, Claire is very humble, but she's a great example of that. Her marketing has kind of really been a driving force for some of the work we've done, and people reach out to Claire all the time. And she put together a great workshop, I think it was about a year and a half ago, and it was really well received.
No, thank you. And actually that sort of brings me back to the point I made about like what was the worst part of my career path when I was in those early years of my career. And I felt like my job was so process oriented and I was craving creativity. Helping out with marketing for IA was such a breath of fresh air, because at the end of the day, when I was done looking at all my spreadsheets and tabs and quant stuff, it's like, oh, let's create some graphics and strategize marketing. So yeah. Anyone else have final thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me. And if anything I talked about today was interesting, and anyone looking involved to looking to be involved with students, please reach out to myself or Adam. You'll see him in the participant list. Seton Hall would love to have you.
And just to echo what Carly said, AJ and I are also involved with that board, and we have both found it so rewarding and so fun.
I will say it's thanks to Insights Association that I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but because of Insights Association, I'm at the job now that I'm at. And again, it was because of you, he sponsored one of the webinars. Yeah, that I found out about this company, and very, very happy with my search.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you as well. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said before, this has been super fun, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was nervous coming in, but at this point, like, I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you all so much for taking the time. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I'm so thrilled that we were able to bring together so many different organizations across market research, because it really helps to illustrate, like, there's not just one way to get involved. You can really find whatever the best fit is for you. So thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Claire. Thank you, everybody.